Along with that, we are also praying to expand and build a new temple along with this one to cater the needs of our growing community. Your prayers are always necessary for projects like this. For more details on either of these projects, you can check out the flyers posted on the main doors of the temple or contact our church representative. Along with that, our dear friend Rodi Mataji has brought back holy water from Kumbh in India. She brought it back to share with our whole congregation. During the Bible time, we would pass out, so please do not leave without taking your drops. Lastly, please block your calendars on February 4th as it is a great charter for us. We will surely have a program that evening. More details will be circulated shortly.
Thank you, Abhi and Chapanoli. Hare Krishna, one more time. Hare Krishna. I still see a lot of moving parts. Unfortunately, I was told the program won't begin unless everyone is whatever best they can slide in front towards front, unless they are done. Because we always, unfortunately, we always have to disturb the class to request people to move. So how about we do that in class? One more thing. Did anyone remember what was a very important announcement we did last time? Temple is working hard. Temple team is working hard to start the program in an hour, very soon, within a month or two. So that is going to be amazing opportunity for anyone who is closer to an hour. So don't have to come all the way here. The program most likely is going to happen Sunday evening. I mean, us to be worked out, locations to be worked out, but he is working very hard to secure. So if you know anyone from Ann Arbor, Solanchi, that's why a couple of other cities are there. Please spread the word to your friends, family, anyone that you want to show your compassion towards, anyone that you want, anyone that you want them to get full benefit of attending this amazing gathering, right? And submerge themselves in holy name and country. So please spread the word very soon, and our program is going to get started. And you are working very hard for that. Okay, it's time for us to request today's Sunday Feast speaker to take their rightful place, none other than Her Grace Chintamani Mataji. Most beautiful congregation. Is there anyone who have not seen Chintamani Mataji or know about Chintamani Mataji? Okay. So very quickly, Mataji is direct disciple of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. To be with us today. She's amazing in her classes. She gave many talks in the past. And her presence itself is giving us honor that she just decided to be here. And now today she is speaking. And one more important thing, it's her appearance day tomorrow.
Haribo!
Mataji is turning 75 years. Okay, she was initiated in 1969, about 56 years back. So most of her life, she was in the process, and she had the opportunity to associate with His Divine Grace in many occasions. She served him directly, coached for him. She got a lot of direct instructions for him, and one very important instruction that's about her Jagannath deities. So I would request Mataji to please include that if possible, in her talks today. It's very inspiring, very intimate instruction that she got from His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. So I will not be doing justice if I narrate, so I request Mataji to please include that kind of comments. And Mataji is living in Detroit, ashram, and she has a wealth of knowledge and pastimes and stories regarding Srila Prabhupada. So today's topic that she is speaking is the genius Prabhupada, who is revealing the timeless wisdom from Srila Vyasa. So Srila Vyasadeva wrote all the scriptures, and Prabhupada amazingly translated and gave that to us in a silver platter. So let's hear from her guest, Mani Mataji. Let's welcome her in our traditional way by three-time loudly chanting.
I'm going to have someone else tell me that. Sure. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Kunja Vihari Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastai Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. You have to excuse me today. I didn't get much sleep for the last 2 days because I don't know if you are aware of what happened, but do you know what the Padma Shri Award is in India? So 2 nights ago, at 11:30 at night, India consulate calls. I'm upstairs, but I can hear Sri Nandanana talking downstairs. Who's calling at 11:30 at night? Oh, Allison, Hare Krishna. Allison's here. First time from Detroit. So anyway, the next morning he said he didn't know anything about this award. It's the highest civilian award given in India, and there's 3 different levels. And it's actually given, the president of India is actually gives a medal and a certificate. So it's a real big deal. It's kind of like going to the White House and getting a medal from the president. And so he was really excited, and we are both older now, and we've talked about how we're probably never going to India again because it's difficult to travel when you get old. Everything when you get older, it's very difficult. Makes me appreciate Srila Prabhupada even more. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, I got to renew my passport, and I got to get a visa, and all these things. And anyway, he's having second thoughts about maybe going to India today, but he's been getting flooded with emails and Facebook and people calling, and all of a sudden it's like, really, you're famous now. And so he's worked very hard over the last years, writing many books. And so it's pretty amazing. So that happened 2 nights ago. I couldn't really sleep that night. So then, and then last night, the furnace went out, and this last night I was thinking, there's no way I can come here and give class. I haven't slept for almost 2 nights, but I can't cancel. It would be so rude to cancel at the last moment, especially someone else was supposed to give class. I don't know who, but who was supposed to give class? Someone. Oh, I'm so sorry, Prabhu, but I only had like a couple of days preparation. It's funny because I was reading the Bhagavatam about Narada Muni and Vyasadeva, and the last class I gave was here about a year ago. I haven't given a lot of classes. And last night I was like, how is this? I can't remember. It was like I knew everything I wanted to talk about. And then last night I couldn't remember anything. I took a few notes, and this morning I was just praying and praying and praying. I can't cancel at the last minute. That would be so rude. But I'm so glad that Krishna gave me some energy. But how come the most beautiful deities in the world came here? So fortunate. Every day you get to have this darshan. I wish I didn't live so far away. I don't like going on the freeway. I don't like traveling very much, or I'd be here every day. So I took some notes of things I was going to talk about. Hare Krishna. And forgive me if I'm a little spaced out from lack of sleep, but that's what was happening. Sri Narayanana has been flooded with phone calls and emails, and it's like, Prabhu, all of a sudden you're famous all over the world, and it's pretty amazing, actually. So I jotted down a few things to talk about. One thing, the Kumbh Mela is still happening. Who has been to the Kumbh Mela? Anybody here been to the Kumbh Mela? No, are you kidding? Wow. I wanted to go ever since I read Autobiography of a Yogi in the 1960s, because supposedly Paramahansa Yogananda saw Babaji. I didn't know about Krishna and Prabhupada at that time, and I want to go to Kumbh Mela. And we went 12 years ago, and that was enough for me. It's like, oh boy, it's if you go, be sure you're very healthy and very strong, because it is. We had a tent. We didn't have a VIP tent. And when you wake up in the morning, there is so much fog. Everything is soaking wet. The tent's wet. You're given a sleeping bag. The sleeping bag's wet. And it's not only fog, but a lot of pilgrims are burning their own campfires. It's smoky fog. So in no time at all, I had severe bronchitis. And one day I was waiting in line. There was a long line for prasadam, and Radhanath he saw me and he goes, oh, you're waiting in line. And usually I don't like to cut in front of people, but he let me come to the front and get some really nice prasadam. And when it was time, early in the morning, it was time to, a special time to bathe in the Ganga. And the Nagababas, they have their own groups that go first. And so, but I was too sick. I had to stay in the tent. And, but amazing thing happened because at that time, at that special astrological configuration, some nectar is coming down from the sky. I didn't expect to really feel or see anything, but at that time, it was like there was a light or some feeling. It's like, wow, there really was something happening. And Srinandanana, he went and talked to different people, which one thing I just wanted to touch on briefly. Does anyone know who IIT Baba is? IIT Baba. Anyone know? You know. Anyone else? IIT Baba. Yeah, he's all over the Indian news, right? So, in case you don't know, he went to Mumbai. He was an aerospace engineer, and he moved to Canada. He got a very lucrative job, making so much. I don't know what 3 lakhs per month is, but 3 lakhs per month. So he wasn't satisfied, just like you read in the Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva, he compiled the Vedas for the Kali Yuga people. He actually had everything written down and divided them into 4 parts. And he compiled the Mahabharata. It said for the Madhajis and the lower class people, but this was a very, very important book for us in this age too. But Vyasadeva, after doing all of that, he was also not satisfied. His guru was Narada Muni, the son of Lord Brahma, who, of course, knowing his disciples' heart, he came to give him some instruction. And so, as you all know, because it's in the first canto, how he explained that because you haven't glorified the Supreme Personality of Bhagavan and our this Jiva soul in our relationship, reconnecting with the personality of Godhead, this is the only thing that will truly give us satisfaction. We're like in a prison house right here. And it's so rare to come in contact with a pure devotee. It's so rare that Krishna comes or Lord Chaitanya comes. So when you think only 500 years ago, you go, only 500 years ago. It's true. That's not that long, really, when you think about it. And I was listening to some Prabhupada lectures recently, and I heard something I'd never heard before. And I went downstairs, Srinandananda, have you ever heard Prabhupada say this? I've never heard this before. I had to go listen to it again. Srila Prabhupada said, if you fall down from Krishna consciousness, now I don't know what level of fall down he was talking about, but he said, if you fall down from Krishna consciousness, there can be a gap of millions of years. The first time I heard it, I thought he said a million years. He said millions of years before you can resume that. And I had never heard that before. Srila Prabhupada always said, just give this one life to Krishna. We've had innumerable lives. I started thinking about that. We've had what's called innumerable lives. We can't imagine how many lives and species we've been to the hellish planets and the upper planets and probably Brahmajyoti, who knows? And I said, Srinath, what if millions of years ago I came in contact with a pure devotee and I left? And this is millions of years later. I was just thinking, this is scary. This is scary, really. How we need to take this very seriously. And just like Maharaj Parikshit, he knew he had 7 days left. We don't always know how long we have left, but as we get older, you're at the end of the race. And if someone thinks I'll enjoy now and when I'm older, I'll get serious about my Krishna consciousness, it's not going to work like that. You could think that way. But the thing is, when you get older, everything becomes very, very difficult. Getting up early, chanting, everything becomes more difficult. And even now, so many, just last year, some of my god brothers and god sisters passed away. And some of them, well, one I found out had dementia. There's other ones that have dementia. There's another one that's senile. And I was thinking, this is not good. And Frank Krishna, if I can't think you at the time of you at the time of death, please remember me. And so, see, when you get older, you kind of lose your train of thought sometimes. You start forgetting things. But the main thing, we need to put on our spiritual armor. If you're going out in the world and working, especially, you're in contact with a lower energy, because what Prabhupada has given us with this Hare Krishna mantra, this mantra is everything. Just by chanting this Hare Krishna mantra. Now, 10 years ago, I got really sick in India. I've been sick for the last 10 years. I'm practically, some days I can't do anything at all. And just a couple of weeks ago, I said, I'm going to start getting up really early again and trying to focus better on my rounds. And it's just amazing. It's amazing the difference I feel. Just like today, I had no energy at all. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? I can't really cancel. I can't do this, Krishna. But I started chanting, just praying and praying. Please help me, Krishna. Please help me. And I laid down. I set my timer for like half an hour. I thought, let me take a half-hour nap. But I didn't go to sleep. I just started praying. For some reason, I thought of Mother Janava. She's Nityananda's wife. And I just started, please help me, so I can give a class. I don't remember what I was even going to talk about. And as I was praying, I felt some energy. It's like, wow, this is like a miracle. This is a miracle. And this is just a little taste, a little drop of why the Goswamis, the 6 Goswamis, only had to sleep a couple of hours. And some people that sort of Prabhupada said they never saw Prabhupada sleep at all. How is that possible? It's because once we really connect with Krishna, Krishna is his holy name, we're directly getting energy from the source. And that energy is more nourishing than even sleeping. And it's really amazing. Sometimes, making advancement in Krishna consciousness, sometimes, some days it's more, some weeks it's more. So, people a lot of times go through things, especially people like me, that Westerners that didn't have the fortune to be in a good birth like all of you. But, okay, what was I saying? Krishna, forgetting things again. But anyway, this chanting, if it's possible, it's not always possible if you have kids and jobs. If it is possible, try to chant early, try to chant during the Brahma Muhurta hour. That Krishna has special times, special days like Ekadasi, and special times like the Brahma Muhurta hour, and special months like Kartik that are very special to get extra mercy easier and to connect. If you get up early, and you might, if you can't do that, try going to sleep half an hour later and then getting up half an hour earlier and chanting and really try to focus, because sometimes the mind's, when you start chanting, sometimes you get all these ideas, you might need a little, you know what I'm talking about, right? Paper and pencil and write down, okay, I'm going to do this later or something. And try to hear the mantra. Some days you may not feel like chanting. It happens until you get to a certain point in your life and you just cranking them out, trying to get them over with. Like Prabhupada made a joke about that once. He took his bead bag, he's like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Whew, we put it down, kind of imitating some devotees. And, but if we keep doing this, Vaidhi Bhakti means we're not on a platform yet of always tasting the nectar, which is there. If we push through that, then Krishna will see, oh, that devotee is sincere. Krishna is in our heart. Krishna knows everything. We can't fool Krishna. He knows. And the main thing is, are we sincere? How much do we want this? There's so many distractions. Aren't there so many distractions? Especially now. I mean, when I joined, we didn't have YouTube and kitties and doggies and all these things. You look at one thing, it's like, oh, let me see what else is. Pretty soon it's like, well, that time went by and I was just looking at funny things on YouTube. So I'm trying to get away from doing that kind of thing because there's so many Krishna conscious sites. Like I've been looking at Vani Media Mayapur. I really like that because they have a lot of talks that are just a few minutes from about Prabhupada talking. That's where I heard about the millions of years gap. So IIT Baba, getting back to him, he was making so much money in Canada and he didn't feel satisfied, just like Vyasadeva didn't feel satisfied. So he left and went to India. Unfortunately, he didn't come in contact with ISKCON or Prabhupada. He came in contact with some Shivites. Now, this is a step up for a lot of people that are just materialistic. Just like when I was in high school, yoga was not popular in Ohio at that time. I started taking yoga lessons from a disciple of Dr. Mishra. You know who Dr. Mishra is? Prabhupada stayed in his ashram when he didn't have any place to live. So somehow I came in contact with a disciple of Dr. Mishra, and that was the first time I even found out about vegetarianism. I was in high school because at that time it wasn't popular like now, and yoga wasn't popular. And I still remember her taking out something from the refrigerator. It was like potatoes and peas and yogurt. And I was like, wow, this is really good. Yeah, we're vegetarians. Really? That's such a thing. And so I became a vegetarian. And and then she said, well, you can go stay with Margaret Coble. She's a senior disciple of Dr. Mishra in Syracuse, New York. So I went and stayed with that family. And I knew about Margaret Coble because she had a record. I used to play just chanting Om and also the Gayatri Mantra. And so for me, just being in material consciousness, that was a step up. Becoming a vegetarian, chanting Om, and I was feeling kind of good about it. This was right before I met Prabhupada, and I was going to go to their ashram, Ananda ashram, but I met a devotee, Virginia. I met him right before that happened, and I still remember one day I was new, and I had a book by Dr. Mishra, and I brought it to the little preaching center. He had like, look at this, you're doing yoga? Well, I'm doing this. And he was like, first time I saw him, like, oh no, that's Mayavadi or something. And I was like, whoa, what's he upset about? It's yoga. So then gradually relearn, got the Bhagavad Gita. So anyway, IIT Baba, he came in contact with Sadhguru. You may know him, he's very popular. Some things are good. He's teaching vegetarianism. He's teaching no onions, no garlic. Some things are good, but he comes right out and says, I have never read the Bhagavad Gita. He doesn't have any books. He doesn't have the foundation of philosophy that we have. And some people say that he's an incarnation of Shiva. So he came in contact with him, and then he went to the Kumbh Mela. What was it called? this was new to me anyway. Juna Akara, the Juna Akara. Starting back in the 8th century, Shankaracharya had some disciples. Some were actually at that, I just found this out, some were considered the intellectual class, and some were considered kshatriyas, the warrior class. And I just found this yesterday on Wikipedia that that years ago at the Kumbh Mela, this was not any recent Kumbh Melas, that some of these kshatriyas, and they carried weapons, some of them got in fights and killed each other at the Kumbh Mela. I was like, well, that's not very spiritual, is it? You know? So they don't do that anymore. They have their tridents and things like that, but they don't. Now, Sri Nandanana went to that Juna Akara, that's like a setup where they are at the Kumbh Mela and they can talk to people and they live there. And they're Nagababas, but a lot of them dress in the saffron cloth. So Srinan, I was talking to him because he had met some of them. In fact, in one of his books, he has some photographs of him talking to one Westerner who had joined their sect, because they also have guru lineage in the Parampara. And it's very strict. So he met the only Western person who was accepted by that group. So I.I.T. Baba also went to that group. You might have read he got kicked out. He got kicked out because he's all about not worshiping the guru, but meditating, just like when I was in New York. You're supposed to meditate and realize, I am God. We're all one. We're spiritual. And when I was doing, I still remember, I was trying to do that. I was having a difficult time emptying my mind, just meditating on nothing. And I said, I didn't know about Krishna yet. I said, can I meditate on Jesus? And she was like, oh, okay, in the beginning, that's okay. But so, so then later when I did meet Prabhupada, then everything, that was another big step up from that, becoming a personalist. And that is why I feel kind of sad that there's so many people that, like I.I.T. Baba, they're not satisfied. And the reason this is such a big deal in India, because if you look it up, then you'll see, oh, he was in this magazine, this one, the latest one I saw, he said, he's now saying, I've seen Shiva, and Shiva gave me the name Kalki. And I'm like, oh, I don't think this is going to end up very good, quite honestly. They don't have, well, he doesn't have a guru. So I was just thinking, we are so fortunate. We are so fortunate that we've come in contact with Prabhupada as a pure devotee. There is no doubt. Prabhupada has come in the line of Lord Chaitanya, and there is no doubt. Prabhupada, if you were around when Prabhupada was here, you could see that Prabhupada would never fall down. Prabhupada would never get dementia. Prabhupada, like, now that I'm older, it's even more amazing. How did he do what he did in 12 years? I can't hardly do anything now. I used to cook offerings to Rajabhoga every day. You know, and this is when in the temple, in Devasadan Mandir, they had the water. They didn't have you probably didn't see it when there was water where the Srinathji hall is. There was in a boat. So when we made the plates up to offer to the deities, we had to either walk outside into the front, even in the winter. That's carrying 4 different plates. No, at that time there were 3. They didn't have Srinathji yet. Or you had to go up all these stairs and down all these stairs. And now I can't even lift one of those plates. And that's what happens when you start getting older. Gradually, it's like when you're sick, you think, well, I'm going to get better and be back to normal. But when you get old, like at my age, every year I notice, Srinath and I talk about this, every year get a little bit weaker, a little bit more forgetful, a little bit worse off. And some people may say, some people that may have left the movement say, I gave my best years in a Hare Krishna movement, like, oh, I should have made money or something. But if you're a serious devotee, you'll look back and say, well, I'm glad I did something when I was young. If you want to do something, you got to do it when you're young. And to me, anyone under 50 is young. Now, when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, there was a saying in the 1960s, don't trust anyone over 30. This was that seemed really ancient. And people really thought that. And now I'm thinking anyone under 50, boy, they are young. So do what you can while you can. Do what you can while you can, because one day you'll be like, oh, I wish I would have done more. I wish I would have. That's what I think. I wish I could have done more for Srila Prabhupada. I'm sorry, Srila Prabhupada. But anyway, Srila Prabhupada did empower us. When I was 19, within 7 months, I'd met one devotee. In April, he said, write to Srila Prabhupada. I sent a letter asking questions about Jesus. I didn't know. Not what we called a temple was just a house. There were no deities. I hadn't seen a picture of deities. I hadn't seen a picture of temples, or we didn't have Tulsi back then. And I got a letter back from Prabhupada. He said, he was always very encouraging. He said, you are a great devotee of Jesus Christ. And you add chanting Hare Krishna. So I had a Bible with a picture. I used to chant looking at a picture of Jesus Christ. And he said, when I come to Columbus, I will take time to talk to you. I got that letter at the end of April. The next month, when Prabhupada came, I got initiated 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later. No big courses, because I tried now with everything you gotta learn. I'm not smart enough. I couldn't make it. I got under the radar somehow or other. And in the letter, Prabhupada also said, I hear you are a good soul. I will take time to talk to you when I come to Columbus. I'd only met one devotee, Prajumna, the Sanskrit scholar. I said, oh, you told Prabhupada I was a good soul? He goes, no. I said, where'd that come from? It's pretty funny, isn't it? And so Srila Prabhupada came. So within 7 months, there's a lot more to this, but I was with Prabhupada in Columbus. What was it? A couple of weeks, I think. Then Prabhupada was going to New Vrindavan for the very first time. There was only a few devotees. So I got in the car to go. And the new temple president, they had just assigned, comes out. He said, you can't go. I said, why not? Prabhupada said only brahmacharis and householders. No single women could live at New Vrindavan. I started crying, and there was only one lady that was Indian coming. Her name was Rekha. I don't know what happened to her, but she acted like Prabhupada was her grandfather, and she went and told him. And Prabhupada said, she can come, she can stay there as long as I'm there. So I got back in the car, and we drove. There were only 2 carloads of devotees. We drove to New Vrindavan. If you ever go to New Vrindavan and you're going up to the temple, on the left-hand side, it's kind of near where Bahulaban used to be, which was another temple. There was an old schoolhouse. That is the road that went to the farm. It was not a road at that time. It was a path. Prabhupada got there before the 4 of us teenagers. Prabhupada walked faster than we could. He was already up there. I'm walking. My mother just bought me a sleeping bag. I was carrying my sleeping bag, and I went to Joanne Fabrics. They had Joanne Fabrics back then. I got some material for sari, and I'm walking. I'm thinking, when are we going to get there? It was just a path. It wasn't even a road. And when we got there, there was Srila Prabhupada sitting outside, smiling, with some devotees around him. It was May, and the weather was perfect. and the birds were singing. I felt like seems like the spiritual world. And so after the long drive from Columbus and then the long walk, I was hungry, and here comes prasadam. And we're sitting around Prabhupada. We're not in a straight line, we're just a few people. And Satyabhama comes out with prasadam. I'm like, oh, good prasadam. And then she comes out with seconds, and she accidentally skipped me because we weren't in a straight line. I couldn't say anything in front of Prabhupada. I was just like, I would just look at him. I couldn't even talk. But in my mind, I just thought, oh, I wish I had more. And Prabhupada looked right up at me. Oh, you want more? And it scared me. It really, I just go like that. It really scared me. I was like, he knows everything. I'm thinking, oh, I better not think. The next couple of days, every time I saw Prabhupada, I wanted to crawl into a hole. I thought, oh, he's gonna know if I say a swear word like blank. Yeah. And I would think, oh, I gotta control my mind. Prabhupada's gonna know I thought about it. I thought this. Oh, Krishna, help me. And I was getting really hung up on that I couldn't control my mind. And Prabhupada, he knows everything. So I was sitting outside, and he comes up to me, big smile, just looks at me, goes, it is all right. And I could relax then. Oh, good. Keep trying. I don't have any idea what time it is. What time's class until? 2:00. And he said, say something about Lord Jagannath. Oh, so within 7 months, so I got initiated real fast. And then, because single women couldn't live in New Vrindavan, I decided I was going to go to Los Angeles, because they did something called Sankirtan. That was a new thing. That was the biggest temple at the time. It was on La Cienega. And Prabhupada said I could go there. So I went there, and you probably heard of Vishajan Swami. He was a big kirtan leader, and we'd go out. This is what we did. The temple would be locked up. Of course, we all lived in the temple. The women had their section, the men had their section. So every day, and there was no days off, every single day, except Sunday. We had a big Sunday feast. We would lock the temple, and we'd go out to like mostly downtown or Sunset Strip during the day. And then in the evening, we'd go to Hollywood and put a big carpet on the sidewalk. There's a picture of Vishajan. He's playing a tambura, and Tamal Krishna has, I think, harmonium. And then there's some devotees behind him. I'm in that picture too. It was really, really nice going out. That was the main thing that we did. And at that time, deity worship was a new thing. That was the first time I saw deities. They had big Jagannath and little brass Radha Krishna deities. They were called Radha Krishna, now they're called Rukmini Dwarkadish. But at the time, little Radha and Krishna had little plates, little tiny bowls, little tiny cups. I used to help make the chapatis, and try to make an instant chapati. And you know, when they puff up and then it falls down in the stove, it's like we had, and then Prabhupada saw what they were doing. Oh, you can use a regular size plate, he said. And not only did little Radha and Krishna get little chapatis, but the big Jagannath got sweet balls like this big. I remember one day I was able to get a Maha sweet ball, and this devotee Mirabai, we went outside, we were just holding it. Can you feel the energy from this Mahaprasad? We had really, really, really nice feasts then. Oh, so anyway, so then what happened was we hear, I didn't know this part of the deal, we hear Prabhupada wants women to get married. I mostly heard it from other women. I was like, oh, I don't know about that, you know. I was really wanting just to love Krishna at that time. I didn't want to get married. But, you know, like, anyway, so I got married, and Prabhupada did the fire yagya. And then I didn't know this devotee. He came up one day. I'm like, what's this brahmachari going to talk to me for? And he says, I'm going to Japan to open a temple. Do you want to get married? I need a wife. I was in shock. I said, ask Srila Prabhupada. Next thing I knew, we were married. And he and Bali Mardan then went to Japan because now, actually, I have this. So back to Godhead. Prabhupada, at that time, there was a few temples in the United States, and then there was a temple in Montreal, Canada, England, and Germany. That was the only foreign temples. But Prabhupada's plane had landed in Japan, and for some reason, he had said he wanted a temple in Japan so much that whoever would go there, he would come at the time of their death and take them back to Godhead. Now, Sudama had been Prabhupada's personal servant, and he's like, okay, I want to do this. Govindadasi was thinking about it, but Nihongo wakatanai, we don't speak Japanese. That's the only thing I remember. Nihongo wakatanai, speaking Japanese. So Bali Mardan and Sudama, they went to Japan, and then they sent for me. So that was within 7 months. Within 7 months, I initiated, married, and went to Japan. And even now, I think back, how did that happen? Because growing up, I had a speech defect. I probably still do somewhat, but people would laugh when I talked. And you know how it says in Chaitanya Charitamrita that the Lord can make the dumb speak and the lame cross over the mountains. Well, I could not speak in public at all. I had to go out sometimes by myself with my bag. At that time, we had Back to Godhead. I should have looked like magazine. See, 50 cents. Back to Godhead were what we distributed on Sankirtan. These were printed in Japan in the beginning before Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. And so that's what we did. That's all we knew how to do. So when we went to Japan, that's what we did. We went out on Harinam at least once or twice a day. We had a big Sunday feast. Now, Sudama had been Prabhupada's personal servant, so he was a really good cook. So every Sunday we had we had samosas, we had sweet rice, halava, you name it. But we found out the Japanese people, at least back then, they didn't like sweets very much. We had all these gulab jamuns left over. Now at that time I was like, oh boy, I'll take care of that. I'd eat like I don't even want to eat one gulab jamun now, but I'd eat like a whole bowl of gulab jamuns. And so, like he said, say something about Lord Jagannath. We didn't know much about deity worship. Prabhupada at that time was training up Shilavati and the LA temple. But it was very simplified. It's not like the turbans now with all the things, very simplified. So one day, I just remember, it was in the beginning of 1970, we got a box through the mail with Jagannath deities. They're about this big. And we didn't know too much about deity worship, but just a few months ago, because I didn't have any pictures from when I was in Japan, except about 2 or 3. But someone a few months ago found 2 more pictures, and there's one showing Sudama and me and some Japanese people in the temple with Jagannath. We put Jagannath, at first he didn't have any clothes. And he's really cute though, he's got feet carved in. These deities were from India, but we didn't know how to take care of them very well. But in fact, Sudama thought that charinamrita, you make charinamrita, you take yogurt, water, sugar, you make charinamrita, and then you pour it on the deities, and then you rinse it off. So we were doing that. But when Prabhupada, he came to Japan twice, and then we found out, no, that's not what you do. And then later Prabhupada even said, don't pour water directly on the Jagannath deities. But the thing is, the sincerity was there. And I was thinking, we didn't have tulsi leaves, because now they say, Krishna won't accept an offering without Tulsi, but I know Krishna was accepting the offerings. But we were sincere, and so then Prabhupada came 2 times. The second time he came, 2:15. Oh, okay. He said 2:15. If anyone has to leave, go ahead. But what was I saying? Yeah. Yeah, we were, the sincerity was there. And Sudama could sew better than me, so he sewed they had the first outfit. And we even had Rath Yatra in Japan. A lot of people don't know this. It's in an old Back to Godhead magazine. There's pictures at Hebia Park. We had a Rath Yatra. And the second time the first time Srila Prabhupada came, it was actually not only Janmashtami, but Vyas Puja. And every temple back then wanted Prabhupada to come to their temple, especially for those days. And he came to Japan. So I got to help cook for Prabhupada then. The second time he came, in 1972, he had just done the biggest sannyas initiation, and he brought all of them with us. And we had this little tiny house, Japanese house. Japanese houses are like, we moved 3 times. The third time had 2 stories. It was more of a farmhouse. The Japanese house, if you go up the stairs, the whole house will shake. It's like there's sliding paper doors, and the one nice thing, they don't wear their shoes in Japan in the house. And so the second time Prabhupada came, he had just done this big sannyas initiation. And they all came with him. I was the only Mataji, so I had to sleep out in the car. I didn't care, because Prabhupada had come. But anyway, Sudama started thinking about taking sannyas because he was friends with Tamal Krishna, who was planning to take sannyas. But I didn't know it. They didn't tell me. So that was the first time Prabhupada came, when there were the sannyasis. And then the second time, when Prabhupada was there, Sudama comes out and says, I just asked Srila Prabhupada if I could take sannyas. And he said I had to get my permission. I thought for a minute, I said, okay. I didn't know a whole lot about it. I knew you're not supposed to ever see them again. So they got me a ticket to Hong Kong. That was the nearest temple. And at that time, Borjan and Jagatrini had just opened a center in Hong Kong on the Kowloon side. So there's another long story I won't get into, but somehow it was so cold. It was so cold. There was no central heating. It was so cold. I had taken a brief trip to LA, and when I came back, he had put Jagannath in a box and had little Jagannath on a heating pad on the altar. So I'd go peek in the box because I had cooked for them, and I was the only one that really worshiped them, and I'd go look at them. And then so I was supposed to take the Jagannath to be the deities in Hong Kong. So when I got there, they've got wooden garlands carved into them. So when I got there, Borjan and Jagatrini were talking. And Borjan was like gonna saw off the wooden garlands off. No, you can't, you're gonna hurt them. He says, you're too attached to them, you should keep them. So it wasn't yet authorized by Prabhupada, that came later. So what happened then was some devotees came through that were going to open a temple in the Philippines. His name was also Sudama Vipra Maharaj and Brahmaharsha. And they said, do you want to come help open the temple? Because I knew how to cook, I had deities now. So I went and helped open the temple in the Philippines. And I mean, I'm thinking I'm taking Lord Jagannath to all these places, but he was taking me. We've been all over we've been, there's so many temples. So then what happened when I came back to America, when I came through Los Angeles, no one had their own deities at that time. I think Nandalal might have had a deity, Prabhupada had said, just worship the deities in the temple. You don't have to have your own deity. So the president was Jai Tirtha, and he was saying, he was saying how you shouldn't have your own deities. And because Sudama had taken sannyas, everything I owned was, they were in the backpack and I hardly had any. I was very attached to them. And I started crying. He goes, we don't want to hurt your feelings, but Prabhupada said, blah, blah, blah. So I was always in the background. Didn't like talking to Prabhupada because I was in a lot of awe and reverence, which is that's my relationship with Prabhupada. But we could have darshan then. So I said, I want to make an appointment for darshan with Srila Prabhupada. I had to get the courage up. So I had them in this box, this blue box. And I went up and I knocked on the door. There was no one else in the room. Prabhupada, come in. And then he gave me a sweet ball. And he was smiling and he wanted to know about the Philippines. We were talking a little bit about that. And then I got up the courage and I said, this sounds kind of funny, but I said, Srila Prabhupada, I have Lord Jagannath in this box and I want them to see you. And the box opened like this and I stood them up and he's smiling so big. Oh, they are gorgeous. He said, so your husband's taken sannyas? Yes. He said, I'm not crying because my husband took sannyas. I'm crying because what Prabhupada said. He said, then you make Lord Jagannath your husband, Balaram your son, and Lady Subhadra your daughter. Because every woman needs a husband, son, and daughter. He said that 2 times. I was so happy. So after Prabhupada, before that, there was a whole conversation, but in the beginning, after I said, Prabhupada, I want them to see you. I started to say, Srila Prabhupada, they're telling me I can't worship them. He goes, who's telling? And I started to repeat what they said. I said, but Prabhupada, you said, and he just stopped. He said, never mind. You make Lord Jagannath your life and soul, you'll be happy your whole life. So he's really merciful. And after that instruction, wherever I went, they were on the altar. They've been on the altar in Calcutta, in Bombay for a year before they had the other Jagannaths. The first Toronto temple, Dallas, Chicago, did I say Chicago? Detroit twice, New Vrindavan, Bhulaban, some other places too. So there's a lot of different pastimes with Jagannath, those deities. And does anyone have any questions about anything or want to know anything? I don't know what I'm going to talk about for 15 more minutes. But question? Someone please think of something.
Where are the deities now?
I have them. I've had them. They've been in my home for the last maybe 20 years, but they were on different altars before that. And I have an idea, actually. Lalita Sundari has taken care of them when I used to go to India. And I want to do a little traveling with them because she wanted them to come to their house. And anyone that wants them to come to their house just for one day and night, I was having an idea we could do a little traveling with Jagannath because they're very merciful. And Lord Jagannath would like to see some devotees, and I got to figure out what's going to happen with him. Oh, there you are. Lalita Sundari. Yeah. So that's right. We're coming to your house first, right? Because they've been to her house a couple of times before. And any other questions?
It might be hard to hear you. I usually got to see the number. Thank you so much for the very sweet lecture. You were mentioning earlier how we're a prison house, and it's very rare to get a critical station. I was reflecting on how sometimes I think of this station really forgetting, and I forgot how much they're empowering me as a So my question was, how can I make sure I'm truly aligning my consciousness with the example of creativity in my own environment or distractions?
Well, actually, sometimes if we're Prabhupada disciples, people think we have a magic wand. They come up, give me your blessings, and I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I can pray to Prabhupada for you, but Prabhupada, if you read his books and purports, you'll feel his association. And like if you want to get the mercy of Prabhupada and you want to get the mercy of Krishna, you follow his instructions the best you can. One day may be easier than another day. Things happen with kids, work, different things, illness. Don't beat yourself up too much if you don't come up here from way down here. I'm way down here. But anyway, we keep trying. You keep trying. The main thing is sincerity. That's the main thing. Krishna wants us to love him. He wants us to come back to Godhead, or even maybe stay in the material world, do more preaching. Some people want to do that. But he doesn't force anyone. He doesn't force us. So I'm trying to put a little more pressure on myself, just like Maharaj Pariksit, when he knew he had 7 days left. What did he do? He stopped eating or drinking. He just, if you only got a little bit of time left, and we don't know. We don't know how long we have. I know I don't have a long time because I'm old, but young people die too. So I say, chant if possible early. Try to be attentive. And that is like putting on armor. So if you have to go out, especially dealing in the material world, you have a protection. Is that okay?
So thank you very much for your answer. Very inspiring journey. So my question is regarding the Prabhupada text you heard recently that Prabhupada said if somebody fall down and he said there are different levels of falling down. So somebody fall down, resume that after millions of them. Literally scared me because for me I'm thinking, it's every moment falling down. So how we can get this?
How the last sentence, how can we what?
Can you elaborate on this? We have to resume that after billions of dollars.
I don't know how to elaborate on that saying because I never heard that until just the other day. It's on Vani Media, Mayapur. It's in the title of one of, they have like 6, 7, 10-minute thing. It's in the title of one of those. As far as trying to become sincere, it's not a matter so much of, oh, you've been a devotee so long. It's a matter of your sincerity. There's a lot of devotees that were initiated by Prabhupada. They're not following anymore for different reasons. And there was one question, there was an interview on the Bonds of Love. They interviewed me and they said, how has your relationship with Prabhupada deepened over the years? And I was thinking, and I think my answer is different than everybody else because the first 6 weeks I was a devotee in Columbus and a whole month in New Vrindavan, we were with Prabhupada. That for me was, I've never experienced anything like that since. But I also had been searching for God for about a year. And so when I met Prabhupada, it wasn't just like, oh, I like the prasadam. I like the prasadam. There's no doubt about that. I'd been a vegetarian, I didn't know how to cook, but the Bhagavad Gita and then meeting Prabhupada right off the bat, that level of intensity I felt, I haven't been able to maintain over the years. I'm trying to get that back now that I'm older, but it's been like, it hasn't always been easy. With the movement also, I mean, most of it's my fault, but the movement went through a lot of changes with zonal acharyas and a lot of different things like that too. So the type of fall down that would make one have a gap of millions of years seems like it would be a serious fall down. Because even people that left the movement, unless they started eating meat again and doing really super bad things, Prabhupada, we got the feeling that those people would come back in this lifetime or maybe the next lifetime. So, but if you, of course, the worst offense is Vaishnava aparad. So my friend Mother Ladini, she was a pure devotee, there's no doubt about it. Anyway, she said, the only thing I'm afraid of is offending a Vaishnava. And so we need to be careful because all these topics will come up: politics, vaccines, book changes, this, that. And sometimes devotees really get into it. That's not good. Our main focus needs to be Krishna consciousness. When back in the old days, I didn't even know who was the president. When we lived at New Vrindavan, we didn't have TV. We never watched TV. That's a funny story. Do you know that one? What happened? We never watched TV or listened to the radio, ever. Once in a while, we might go visit our parents. Okay, they had the TV going, and I'm thinking, that is Maya. Don't look at it. You know, every time I'm going by the TV, oh, don't look, don't look. But I was spending so much time in my room, I thought, because I had my Jagannaths in the room, I was sneaking food into them and everything. So I thought, let me just go watch one movie with them so they don't think I'm too weird. And I'll never forget, Krishna's got a sense of humor. The movie, which I hadn't heard of, was The Exorcist, which is one of the scariest movies ever. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God. I went back in my room, Krishna, please, I want to come back to the temple. I promise I'll be good. Please. So that was kind of funny. But anyway, that was when we all lived in the temple. Now it would be considered fanatical. You never watch TV, you never. But that's the way it was. And it was a full immersion in Krishna consciousness. But some people were like, how did you do it? But I say, how do you all do it? How do you have jobs and then on the weekends or your spare time do service? How do you balance that? For me, that would be like, wow, that's really difficult. So everyone's got their own challenges in life. Any other question? Yes.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for beautiful narration, beautiful insight over Srila Prabhupada. You emphasized many times about the sincerity. And I was just thinking about this term because this is such a bloated term.
It's such a what town?
It's a bloated term, which is very abstract in a way because you don't know how the sincerity is measured. So, for an example, I may be thinking chanting 16 rounds as being sincere, or attending program daily is sincerity, but the goal is so lofty, it apparently looks like I'm always underperforming. But at the same time, with the point which you just now mentioned, the time is so short. And then there is a fear, I don't want to get into that million lines here. Just Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying, even thinking about the separation, one moment is like millions of years. What we talk about millions of years. So how one justifies, at least I'm thinking about myself, that I'm sincere. If I'm underperforming, I feel sincerity is, if you're meeting expectation, that's the minimal part. If you're underperforming, forget it.
Well, it's also in, I forget that little book, not Ishapanishad, the other one, Nectar of Instruction. over endeavor, don't under endeavor, but don't over endeavor. Endeavor isn't simply physically how much we're doing also, because just like now, after cooking Raj Bog for years and doing other things that I can't do now, I've had to, and sometimes that, oh, you feel guilty, you're not physically able to do what you used to do. But the chanting in itself, Haridas Thakur, the thing is, there's different ways of doing devotional service. Of course, if you're in a temple, people want you to do books and do, temple things, but sometimes you may get sick, or sometimes you're not able to for some reason. So then you have to focus more. Like Prabhupada said, work now, samadhi later. I'm in the samadhi later yet, so I'm trying to get into samadhi. But the main thing is bhakti yoga isn't just up here. We've got to feel like read Krishna's pastimes. See, if you read Krishna's pastimes, someone just said, I don't have time. I'm going to have to get a second job. I don't have time. And I'm like, no. When I was at New Vrindavan, we had to write our schedules. Mother Ladini, my friend, had 14-hour schedule every day. 14-hour. She got all the books read. How? We'd be making G-Rex, one person would be reading just a few pages here, a few pages there. Try to go deep. Don't be overwhelmed. There's so many books. When I joined, there weren't so many books. There was this was the first Bhagavad Gita by Prabhupada, and then Teachings of Lord Chaitanya came out, and Nectar Devotion. The thing is, every time a Bhagavatam came out, I was living in Detroit then. I'd sit out in the hallway and I was just like, I couldn't stop reading it. But the question again about over endeavor, the thing is, the sincerity has got to be there, the sincerity. Oh, what I was going to say, I remember now. If we read, like Krishna book, okay, Krishna book. We used to sit around and have hot milk and read Krishna book every night in the beginning of the movement. We passed the book around. It was really nice. If you're reading Krishna's pastimes, and Prabhupada, some people actually say, oh, I can't read Krishna book. That's for later. No, Prabhupada had it come out in the very beginning in Japan. Ramananda came and brought the Krishna book after it was printed back to Prabhupada. So if you read Krishna's pastimes, and then, also philosophy, Bhagavatam, try to go deep into, not that you have to read a whole lot, try to go deep and you think about it. Then when you're chanting your japa, you'll remember Krishna was dancing on Kaliya. Oh, and Krishna put his footprints branded on Kaliya's head. Hare Krishna, and Krishna looks like this, and Krishna did this. So, and then then I know Jayapataka used to always say, you have to cry for Krishna. If you can't cry for Krishna, cry that you can't cry for Krishna. If you can't cry that, so on and so forth. And so if we feel like, we always need to be introspective. Am I sincere? No, I'm jealous or envious. I have 4 letters from Prabhupada. How do you overcome envy? And he said, you keep chanting Hare Krishna. Keep chanting Hare Krishna. You don't have to worry about anything. And years later, I'm thinking, but it's not working yet. But you have to keep doing it, and then you'll see these anarthas start decreasing. Or you can become like Maharaj Pariksit and just, okay, 7 days, I'm not going to eat, drink. No, we can't imitate those great souls. But we should be introspective and always be looking. And another thing, Prabhupada said, he said, your love for me will be proven by how much you cooperate. One thing I've seen lately, some people, they have a hard time cooperating, and that's really sad, because I saw when I was at New Vrindavan, there were 2 brahmacharis, they had an argument about something, and then later, the same day, they came out, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances, to each other. Prabhupada was outside and he's smiling like this. That is the mood to be in. He said, that is the Vaikuntha mood. That is the Vaikuntha mood. Even sometimes, because when you're chanting, gradually the heart becomes a little softer. And sometimes even when you feel like you're right and the other person's wrong, if you take a humble position, okay, let's say if you're married and even if you take a humble position, I'm not a good example of this, but anyway, take a humble position and it can change the dynamics between the people, even if one person tries to do that, so. Anyway, any other question? Okay, finish.
Thank you very much for coming and let us express our gratitude to you. My love is anything as I want. She has experienced the love of the devotees of Farmington. She said that she has not heard of this before. I don't know the word Padiya. Padiya means paraphernalia used by Krishna and his spirit devotee Prabhupada. So she had a lot of interactions with Prabhupada and she has certain articles given by Prabhupada every month. So she said she wanted to donate to ISKCON for him. And you all know we will write Prabhupada usually brings one day to Prabhupada. If you say the same thing to India, the cycle would have been multiplied by 28 times. So because if we do not, Kalila means anything great appears cheap, anything cheap appears great. The cell phone appears great, and something like this appears cheap. So when she said, so, wow. So they put a message. She shared it and before she shared it, even with they are getting $100 million tempo. There must be money without the multiplied when it's increased to 35 million. They are doing a proper music and they're requesting all the temples. Many paraphernalia of paraphernalia used to Prabhupada send it back because we will use it, it is not different from Prabhupada. You come to Government Temple. The room, the university allocating a room is not a joke actually. The room was allocated and it actually cost me a lot of time and engineering actually. So the Sanskrit Prabhu, he put all the Prabhupada in there. The pictures that you see, teachers, same articles, he collected and kept it and this result the next, so many decades to come. So, first thing, somehow we started very late and 350 years later. But the proper ways goes in so many ways, So she felt that whenever I come here, God was encouraged and I feel it's to Prabhupada. I feel I experience the Prabhupada love to all of you, love. And same thing with Radha Gopinath also. So she said, I decided to donate. So these articles are priceless, priceless. So that's it. Thank you very much. Very, very blessed.
I don't think there's a saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. We don't know if there's going to be war, Muslim attack. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't think all of the Prabhupada memorabilia should be in one place. So what I'm giving you today is his handwriting. This is in pencil, so it's not real easy to see, but it's on both sides of writing the whole purport for the Bhagavatam, and also this League of Devotees, and this is over 70 years old. Anyway, I'm donating to this because I really like this community. I feel very welcomed when I come here, and I really like it here. So anyway.
Prabhupada Bhagavad Gita so, and she said, they really didn't, she didn't put everything in the, didn't put everything in the books. But because she stayed with Prabhupada at the time. So now Prabhupada is a theoretical spiritual world, so this purpose, Prabhupada, the purpose is kind of ecstasy. So she's giving that. So I told her, we will make a glass case and we'll fix it with alcohol. And everyone for next decades to come, they'll see proper handwriting, and the purpose. Thank you very much. We really do not know how to express our gratitude actually.
And this is.
Without leaving as soon as it clock 2 o'clock, 2. They will start leaving here, you don't know what's going to come up, That's why one has to have patience. No, serious, So one great devotee, he would lecture, actually. One person would come in the beginning, he was the last one to leave. And later the Siddhas figured out the lecture Hanumanji. So likewise, everyone's leaving and they're thinking, why you are going to disconnect. That's it, unbelievable life statement. I take devotees association for granted. Prabhupada, the Star was very sincere. Prabhupada actually, couple of decades ago, they made this announcement in Gurgaon. She came and, as well as Radha Swami said, Krishna. Prabhupada told Jagannath is your husband, and Balaram is son, and Subhadra your daughter. People hear like a million times loud uproar actually. So no, whoever is telling, like, is really a spiritual position. When I was just watching when she was telling, we are cold, it's because it shows we don't have sufficient spiritual strength to appreciate. So I really that she's so small, she's making a statement. Never take the association of devotees here, the general Prabhupada is a tool. It's extremely simple. And the Mahabharata devotee, when she's singing and singing like that, and now we are taking for granted. A couple of years ago, what is it? Confusion for Mahabharata came and stayed with us. But like a couple of my last one in last day, so, and we stayed 2-3 times he came and stayed with us. I realized, so likewise, we know their value only after they leave, that's wrong actually. And they are there, appreciation, and she, I really watching, I was really watching. So one person comes to her and says, like, I'm going to Japan and really marry me. She said, I'll ask Prabhupada. It doesn't happen anything like that in this material world, right?
No, can I say what happened also with that? Years later, I get a phone call. Now, when your husband takes sannyas, you're never supposed to see him. Okay? I said my so-called husband because, anyway, Sudan was gay and we didn't have a physical kind of relationship or anything, so I know it's too much information, but anyway, I wasn't crying into sannyas. It was. But he called me. I was in Chicago Temple. This is like 5-6 years later. Prabhupada had left. And he said, remember when you said, ask Srila Prabhupada if we should get married? He said, I didn't ask him. I told him we were getting married. Anyway, that's okay. This was all Krishna's arrangement. But he said, I need a good wife. Do you want to get back together? Because he was upset after Prabhupada left that the next day, making the different zones. And I was shocked because I thought I'd never see him again. And I said, well, I don't think it worked out so good the first time. So that was the last time we talked. Anyway, he passed away in around 1990. Yeah.
So I know she went through a lot personally, but because they came to Ishmael, this is very engaged. They don't do anything but two things. Gopal and Krishna. That's what they speak. They don't have so much cleverness or intelligence like we possess. They know what to speak, what not to speak, what to hide, what not to hide. She's not in that. Her mind is filled with Jaina and she's just Aditya, Krishna, all the decades. When 970?
May, initially May.
So she was initially
13.
And I'm sure 56, 55 years of Bhakti. Haribo.
I'll have it been like.
So 55 years, I'm sure 90% are not born here. So, Amen. I'm sure she can Jaina with her all the time. She has her own conception of ups and downs. Don't worry, not our ups and downs that way. That is her ups and downs. Amen. If you really ask me, sometimes I think seeing them is purification. Actually, I don't know how much I am. Very young, 10 to 15 years ago, and those seeing is purification and I said. So like, well, she's like a babe, right? I'm just seeing her like purification, actually. She chanted with this long and she could journal and worship. This middle is so driven for the Kanaka and the first stage. So like in this middle world, very the lotus in his heart. She led a life and she's willing them as a treasure of her life. She's willing to join us those
Can I eat now?
Yes. So that is express her gratitude and loud and anymore. Okay, but wait. It is her birthday tomorrow. Yeah, bring the cake here. This one and 1 month touch, and bring the cake here and she cut the cake and so little thing. So we cut the cake. There's a reason she came here. Otherwise, we don't ask her. We had a dropping, but she said, no, I told her, please come. And when I came to it's her birthday. And she is in the same hall in the house we stay on. We just got a message that he is even from history. My darling account must have doing something like that. Okay, everyone can stand up. Various reasons. She's okay. Here is the knife. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare
Jai